All right, so we're going to go ahead and see if we can't correct up a pair of shears. This above shear has a bugger of a nick in it, and so I'll show you what I'm up against, and then we'll see where we go from here. So you can see right here that there is quite a bit of a nick in this blade. Actually much worse in this one here. It goes almost all the way down into the ride line on the edge of the shear, and you can see it all the way around the outside of the shear. So we'll see if we can deal with this. I'm going to start out by taking my shear apart. Next in line, I'm going to do a little bit of work on my water stone here. This is a 2000 grit stone. We're going to use this phone to start the process because we want to make sure that we create a new ride line on the shear and get that ride line down below where the problem area is. All right, so this is actually a much thicker ride line than I'd like to have on the shear, but we're going to correct that when we do the sharpening, because we actually need to sharpen past the nick that's actually on the blade. So that's going to make for a much thinner ride line when I'm done. And we're also probably going to have to do a little bit of extra work at the tip. The tip is a little buggered up as well from the drop that the shear went through. All right, so I did the same thing on the water stone with the second shear. You can see that I actually have gone down below the nick. This was the one with the worst nick. So what I'm going to do is a sharpening now before I do any more work on the inside, and any additional work on the inside will be done on a 5000 grit water stone. All right, I've got my fixture set right at 50 degrees. I'm going to start the sharpening process. My burr has already started to form, and now I just need to make certain that I get past that nick. I'm starting with a coarser grit than I normally do, and I will do a step down on this. Just want to make sure that I get past any of the issues that are there. All right, you can see that the nick is gone, but there's still some ride line left on there. So we will go to the 5000 grit before we do any additional work, and then blend the remainder of any of the work that was done on the front back into the full face of the shear when we switch to a finer grit. All right, I've created my initial convex on the front surface, gotten past any damage on the inside of the shear, and now I'm just reestablishing a ride line with a few strokes to make sure that the ride line is cleaned up and smooth on each blade before I go through my final convexing process. I went to a 600 grit, which is about the equivalent of a 30 micron. Now I'm bringing up a new burr on a 1200 grit. I'm just making sure that I have everything smoothed up on the front surface of the shear to do the blend to reconvex the front surface. All right, you can see that we have a well-established ride line on the shear now. Oops, there we go. It's been thinned out through the sharpening. Now we just need to do the blending on the surface to polish up and blend the convex into the face. This is a 3 micron diamond paste on a felt pad. What I'm doing right now is just polishing the edge and removing any residual burrs. Now I'm rotating up slightly to blend the front surface, making sure I get my throat. Moving up a little bit further, increasing my pressure slightly too, so that I can actually do a little bit of a wrap over the face. Do not do this at the edge because it will round out your edge. So you can see how that rotated back to my stopping point at 50 degrees after I was done doing that work. You can see that I've reblended and reconvexed the front surface of the shear, removed any potential angle and blended it into the back surface. You can no longer see any kind of a nick on the edge, and a well-established ride line. Now that the shear has been put back together, we'll go ahead and just deal with the tip. So I can do this where you can see it, sorry. Just need to knock that tip down just a smidge. It was pooched just a little bit from where it took the hit when it was dropped. So we're gonna go ahead and round out the tips, get them back to factory spec. Chamfer those outside edges of those two to make sure that they're not sharp. Touch that up just a bit more. That looks good. So what we want to do is do a test on tissue. Make sure we have a good clean cut without any grabbing. Once we've tested dry, we'll also test wet, particularly in this case because we did have a tip that was kind of boogered up, so we want to make sure that there is no longer any kind of a little pooch there or anything to grab. That cuts through nicely. And of course, finally, the final test is going to be some hair. In this case, we'll just have to use fur because I forgot my test here at home. Nice clean cut, nice clean cut, nice clean cut. Let's do all the way along as well. Good. No slide. So this shear is back in business. Let's take a look one more time. So you can see it's been fully reconvexed. Tips have been cleaned up. And you can see that we have a good ride line with no nick any longer on the inside of the shear. All right, so that wasn't really an overly complicated repair on that shear, but you do have to make sure whenever you're doing a repair like that that you sharpen all the way past the nick, which means if you have to create a thicker ride line when you start, create the thicker ride line, sharpen past the damage that was there. If you have any questions about any of the pieces of equipment that I use, you can always contact me below. I do sell this double-headed Typhoon unit, the Kotoku unit, and I sell a number of other ones as well. And I always sell them at a discount as well off of the manufacturers. So if you have any questions, I'll have contact information below. If you'd like help getting into this business, I'm here for you. Talk to you later.